But what we realize is there is a reason why water access is as bad as it is, because there is no infrastructure. That's just the truth. So we are beginning to see how we can better understand the business, use the insights we are generating to raise funding, and then that way we can appraise the investment for.
Today I had the pleasure of chatting with IBK, the CEO of a Techstars company called Hydropool. Hydropool is a water distribution network operating in Nigeria that leverages technology and trusted vendors to provide improved water access for the community. Before Hydropool, IBK published research work at Get Funded Africa on investment trends in Africa and completed the Founder Institute Entrepreneurship Program in 2023. In today's conversation, we talk about water delivery challenges, a community-driven business model, and sustainable water infrastructure solutions. This is Earth ABC, featuring IBK Emmanuel.
IBK, thanks for joining me today. I got a big hitting question to get us started. What is the future of water access in Africa?
That's a very good question, Sean. First of all, I want to say a very big thank you to you. Thank you for this opportunity. To tell our story, talk a bit more about the impact we're having across everyday lives in Nigeria. The future for us as a company, that's the direction we're taking into the future. Where we are as of now is a place of least regulatory resistance, and that's where we are leveraging on that to penetrate the market. So I think the future of water access in Nigeria is sustainable solutions that incorporate renewable energy with water system operations.
Gotcha. And so water system operations, I imagine you face challenges like any other type of solution space. So what are the biggest challenges when it comes to this universal water access in Africa?
Good question, Sean. I think from my own point of view and my experience in the market, I think one of the challenges people face is funding. Training, and when I say training, I mean training on best practices in vending, training on entrepreneurial skills, on how to balance your cash flow, things like that, so that you don't take too much credit. It's hard to be a startup and hard to be a bank at the same time, even if you want to have that impact. I think one more thing that's a challenge is the regulatory environment. I think if it's much more open and with the right type of data, access to funding, we can actually achieve universal water access in Africa.
And so when it comes to universal water access, for me, like I could just go to like the grocery store, get like a bottle of water, or maybe even have like my Brita filter filter out the water from my sink. What does the water access look like in Africa and in the area that you're in with your company Hydropool?
Okay. I think water access where we are currently, we operate in Lagos, Nigeria, in communities like Ikoyi, Banana Island, Parkview Estate, just within a small niche, right? The problem with water access here is some people are connected to municipal water, and I would say that's just 20 or 25% of the population, really. And because of the inconsistencies in their supply, it gives us room to fill in those gaps in water access for customers. I hope I've been able to answer your question well.
In a way, could you elaborate a bit more? I'd love to hear more about what that looks like.
Okay, so 25% that relies on municipal water, the other 70-75% rely on either on-premise water system operations. And what that means is that they have like a mini treatment plant, right? Just like you explained, having a filter to collect the water from the sink. So they have a purification device that they use. And while the vast majority of the population, which I would say is around 60 or 65%, rely on private water vendors, either mobile vendors or stationary vendors, which is where we come.
Gotcha. So you're like a private water vendor for
Yes,
the areas in Africa?
yes, that's correct.
Okay, so walk me through what that looks like. Is it like a tank that you like set up in like the town center? Do you have like a truck that transport water? Do you have like a delivery man that delivers water? Kind of like how the milkman was like back in the
Mhm,
day. Like what does
mhm.
that look like with Hydropool?
Hydropool, okay. For us now, it's pretty much simple. What we do is we just get the closest loading point to the customer, um, get water from there and deliver it to the customer. And upon delivering it, we still have to supply it to their storage tanks, right? So that's how it is for us. And very interesting trends and insights we've been uncovering, new opportunities every day since we've launched the mobile vending side. Initially, when we launched this product, or the idea and the vision was to use existing infrastructure, either private or public, to improve water access for people. But what we realize is there is a reason why water access is as bad as it is, because there is no infrastructure. That's just the truth. Um, so we are beginning to see how we can better understand the business, use the insights we are generating to raise funding, and then that way we can appraise the investment for um, you know larger water supply.
Right. I like how you're leveraging already existing infrastructure for your business. What are some of those components that you're leveraging?
Good. So one of them is local partners, which are offline water vendors who have been in business for quite some time before we even launch, right? We work with them closely, and part of our growth and success is tied to our association with this community of water vendors. We're able to have access to loading points. We get support in terms of um, maintenance. We have like a community, so you have the guys that will help you fix stuff around you. You don't have to go too far. So I think that's one of the um advantage and the components that we put together to make our own ecosystem.
Gotcha. So the people in Nigeria, they're a huge help in making sure that this water delivery system works as smoothly as possible.
Not people generally in Nigeria. I would say a community of vendors, right? Work
Vendors.
together hand in hand to ensure that
Mm,
everyone gets access. And I'll give you a typical example how,
okay.
right? Sometimes, and it's not sometimes, many, many times, because with the level of infrastructure, climate change, and the number of things, what we realize is that there's more demand than supply in the market, right? It's not enough to want to leverage on existing infrastructure. There is no supply. There is very, very low supply. Sometimes, and another example, sometimes for us operationally, it takes 2 hours before we can get to load our trucks, right? The problem we wanted to solve is on-time delivery within 45 minutes. But with existing infrastructure, it's almost impossible to achieve that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I mean, several hours down to several minutes is going to be a huge time saving to get water when people need it.
Mhm,
In terms of like these vendors, I'm trying to picture like what exactly these vendors are doing. So,
mhm,
for example, is one of the vendors like a like a truck like system where they have like multiple trucks that you can kind of rent out?
mhm. Okay, so I'll put it to you this way. In our ecosystem, there are three major groups:
Okay,
customers, mobile vendors, and stationary vendors, right? In that order. The stationary vendors, by definition, means that they can deliver water. They're not limited to distance and can deliver to, almost any distance so far they're willing to pay the cost. Right? But stationary vendors are much more mobile. They are in one position and they are limited by distance. Now, the vendors I'm speaking of are mobile vendors, most of them. And what that means is that they have their own tankers that they use to deliver. But what sets us apart is we currently occupy the online space, while they focus more on the offline space.
What do you mean by online and offline in this context?
Okay. So what I mean by that is the entire booking process, payment process, ordering process is being done offline, right? While with our own system, you can create an account, create your order, make payment, and get what I 4 easy steps.
Got you. Okay. So let's say people order online with you, with
Mhm.
Hydropool. What does that look like in terms of I go to like a website,
Mhm.
I find what I want and need, and then I make a payment,
Mhm.
and then I get the delivery. Could you walk me through end to end between I know I want water, and then I get the water delivered to me?
Okay. So it depends on the first contact of customers with our product. Typically, we focus more on organic, engagement with customers because it's easier to gain their trust in person. Because this is a problem that, don't forget, that has been going on for what, maybe 20 years already. Demand has always been there, but there's been low supply, right? So what that means is, from the point of view of the customer, it's a low trust market. They really don't have any leverage or reliability. So, I mean, just doing online adverts alone, online campaigns would take a very, very long while if you're not really delivering on those promises. Do you understand? Does that
Hmm.
make sense? Yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha. So sounds like trust is like a big thing, which also explains like why even though you're not a big like social media guy, you start posting more. Um,
Yeah.
like what have been your efforts in terms of getting to build trust with all the people in the ecosystem, whether it be like customers, vendors, maybe even
Yeah.
like local government, to make
Yeah.
sure that there's like compliance and regulatory policies that are being followed?
Good question. So currently our office is located in Ikoyi Parkview Estate specifically. And what we've done is we are trying to immerse ourselves community by community. We just don't want to spray and wish that we get customers, right? We really want to focus on those communities, solve those problems, and then we can grow from there. And our effort has been engaging the Parkview Residents Association, their executive, and we've made very, very huge progress in our conversations with them. Hopefully by this time next week, we would have proceeded. So what we're trying to do is see how we can leverage their transportation networks to provide more marketing for our product or more visibility for our product. And so far, so good. We've been working hand in hand, and I think we're making significant progress. For the vendor communities, one of the things we do is we provide support any way we can. And part of the ways that we do that is we are in the process of launching a vendor credit program which allows them to get access to small finance loans for them to, in times when they are cash strapped, they can get those loans and fix up their vehicles and move on with their orders. And on the government side, for our space, there is a regulatory body that works with us directly. That's the Lagos State um, Water Regulatory Commission. That's WACO. We work with them closely. And one of the things to do to ensure, one of the things we do, excuse me, to ensure vendor compliance across board is we have a vendor onboarding process, which we sign them up onto the
Mhm.
platform. We take time to train and sensitize them. And then when we do that, we give them an onboarding kit. So what that is um, the up and down PPE coverage, which covers the skin and reduces contact between your skin and the product itself. Hand gloves, helmets, safety boots, the whole thing, just to ensure that there is some level of compliance, right?
Gotcha. And I love that you have this onboarding process for your vendors, especially because you mentioned that it's a very low trust market, and that
Mhm,
onboarding process really builds that trust for the
mhm.
vendor to yourself, but also that you kind of vet the vendors through this additional process of onboarding.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
really like that. And there you are, you're drinking water.
We have a slogan in the vendor community. When we say water, you are supposed to say food of life. So water, food of life.
Mm,
Yeah.
I like that. Is
Yeah.
there is there a Nigerian proverb related to water?
Oh, interesting. Good question. There is one in Western Nigeria. I'm from Yoruba, where I'm from.
Mm.
It says Akwamita in short. And what that means is the person that gets water delivered to people does never makes a loss. That's what they mean.
Uh,
Yes.
is it always a financial loss, or it could loss mean something more?
I think it's more from a financial point of view.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, let's
Financial point
hone
of
in
view
on that.
and spiritual point of view. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, so in terms of financial loss, what could you share in terms of, I guess, the financial aspects of running a water business, like a water delivery business?
There are so many moving parts to running a water delivery business. Um, Getting demand is one thing, but ensuring supply, like reliable supply every now and then when they come, that's the huge bottleneck. Then in order for you to be able to deliver it to the customer, you have to make sure you understand the business, you understand your unit economics down to each cost, each cost element. And then something that is also important is water conservation, right? Along the supply chain, you have to be wary of that because we don't have water in excess. So that's one of the things we're trying to do in the first quarter of this year is to achieve zero leakage, zero wastage. So from the point we load up to the point we discharge water, we're trying to make sure that we reduce waste essentially.
Gotcha. So ensuring supply is critical in terms of making this business run, making sure that there's no financial loss. So this might be a very rudimentary question, but where are you sourcing the water?
Okay, so like I mentioned, we leverage the current vendor community to we utilize their loading points to deliver to customers. So it's because we're able to integrate ourselves into this community. That's one of the reasons why we are also able to demonstrate very early traction along the business. Yes.
Gotcha. And then what does your current pricing model look like?
It's pretty much fixed. I don't think the market is at the point where we can, test out dynamic pricing based on distance. I don't think we're there yet. We need to build enough trust in the system before we can then do that. Right. So our pricing model is mostly fixed. Pay-as-you-use service. In April, we'll be launching a subscription service. Once we are fully able to integrate in the supply chain and value chain um, water storage monitors.
Gotcha. Okay. And how does climate change impact water availability from what you've seen? And then how is your company the solution versus everything else in terms of water availability?
Mm, Good question. I think climate change have had its own, you know, the supply chain has had its own fair share of disadvantage from the climate change. And a typical example would be during peak periods. When I mean peak periods, I mean from somewhere around October in Nigeria, yeah, because of the climate, up until January. But sometimes because it takes more time for us to reach raining season, which ideally should start by March, right? Sometimes it gets extended to like April, right? So it does reduce the amount of water available for people, right? And then it makes them spend more than they would typically spend on water,
Mhm.
right? So I
Gotcha.
think that is the huge. And then for us as vendors, from our point of view, I think the effect for us is it puts stress on the supply chain because we have less supply. It means it takes us longer time to load. It takes us longer time to deliver to customers, and it doesn't improve customer satisfaction.
Hmm. And how come your company is the solution versus every other solution for water?
I think There are a number of reasons why. One of them is we are very, very conscious about quality, right? And we focus on compliance. I think why our company is the go-to solution is because one, we are a technology company. So what that means is that we are not just delivering water, we are also gaining meaningful insights. We are collecting very um, important data and we're making decisions from that data, right? So what that means is that we are going to be able to improve customer satisfaction, right? And also penetrate the market a lot faster. Now, I think from the customer's point of view, why they would choose our solution is the ease of access. And what that means is that as opposed to, calling every now and then, you tend to just from your mobile phone, from your hand, you can create an order, you can pay for it, and it will be delivered to you in time. So I think it's just mostly just the ease and the reliability that comes with our service, such that you know that once you've paid us, we have no choice but to deliver to you.
Mhm. I like how you mentioned like water quality several times. So it seems like the quality of the water is of utmost importance to not only your company, but also the people that are buying the water, both
Sure.
from like a health standpoint, but also like the texture of the water, the taste of the water, like
Mhm.
all that. Um,
Mhm.
and so I'd love to hear more about how you ensure that water quality and safety across like this decentralized like delivery network.
So for now, that's a very, very good question. What we do now is that with most of the water we deliver in bulk are mostly for domestic use, and they are not drinkable for now. And that is because we're still a very small company. Like I said, we're trying to gather meaningful data and then use that data to make very responsible decisions. So ensuring quality across the entire network will require us to deploy technology. And so what we want to do in the future is work closely with one of the companies that we came across during the Techstars Water Tech and Sustainability Program. You might know of him, Ben, and I think that their solution can be used to improve the water quality across the supply chain at scale because it allows you to monitor the quality and also the volume of water too as well. Sip
Mhm.
safely. Yes, sip safely. That's the name of the company.
Gotcha. And in terms of making everything work, this like also requires investment. I saw you repost this one thing where it's like Africa does not need aid, Africa needs investment. So in terms of investment for the water supply chain and the delivery of water, what
Mhm.
does investment look like to help your company reach its goal of water access to everyone in the Nigerian area and beyond?
Can you please clarify your question? When you
Yeah.
say what does investment look like, what exactly do you mean from our own point of view for customers or for everyone?
In terms of like how you will use the investment, and
That's it.
how that investment in how the money that you use for the investment will impact the end user.
Very good question. Thank you very much. So we are currently fundraising, and the fund will be utilized for research and development, customer acquisition, acquiring vending equipment, operational costs, and I think I must have mentioned research and development. And I'll just talk a bit around that. Now, critical it is um, not only for the customer, but for climate change and for our business going forward. Right. I come from a local government called Odorele in Odo State, and we have not been connected to the grid in over 10 years now. So that means that we've not had any electricity. I
Wow.
promise you. And what that means is that everybody there, they rely on gasoline generators to power their water system operations, which is not sustainable because gasoline is very, very expensive here in Nigeria. So Um, why are we spending some of that money on research and development? It's for people that live in places like Oderili, so that they can have more sustainable solutions that can provide them um, water at any point in time. So they don't get to run out of water because they don't have gasoline, or gasoline is scarce, or there are long queues at the pump. So it streamlines their water system operations for households and even for commercial uses. So that's why we want to spend that on research and development. And for a company long term, I think, like I said earlier when we started, is the future for decentralized water supply in Africa is sustainability, right? I see that in the market, people are beginning to adopt, solutions that incorporate renewable energy, like solar and submersible pumps, for instance, right? So where we come as a company, where we come in is we can provide financing on a rent-to-own basis for underserved communities like Oderili, such that anyone, can afford to pay a very minimal amount, because there's very little cost associated to it, right? Just have to pay for the pump and then own it for life. So that's how we are thinking around sustainable solutions and even scaling the company going forward. I think that will be very useful. And in the future, we can sort of relegate and moderate the tankers to what's it called? To provide semi-contingency for the underserved population. So what that means is that, if I can't pay for my water, or municipal water, or for my solar pump, I can actually get water delivered to me at every point in time. You don't get to run out of water.
I really love that vision. Just water
Yeah.
anytime, anywhere,
Yes.
and just like access to good quality water is of
Yeah.
utmost importance, but also it's just like a human right. So I'm really
Mhm.
glad that you're working toward that vision, and that the investment will go into R&D to help make sure that the parts of the network that's really detached from the power supply are able to really provide that supply of water when
Mhm.
and where they need.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'll leave you off with this one question, and I think this
Mhm.
will provide some light into some other people's journey. But what advice would you give to entrepreneurs trying to build a socially responsible water company?
Good question. I think one thing is to understand your community and understand your customer. It's very, very critical to success of the company. Because right now, where we are, like I said earlier, if we were not fully integrated in the vendor community and we just parked our trucks outside our office here, for people to just stare at, we probably won't get as much orders as we're getting now. But because we have a good relationship with them, sometimes when they're overwhelmed with orders, they tend to say, "Hey, are you guys open? Are you available to help us do this?" So I think it's important to understand your community, understand the environment, and also I think it's important to know that you have to be very resilient. To be honest, judging by where we are coming from and how long it took us to get here, very few people understand the problem enough to want to put money into it, to be honest. And so you have to be resilient. That's just the truth. You have to be.
Mhm.
And, being rooted in your community would really help you know how to um, efficiently use the capital. And I'll just give you a typical example. I think I'm saying too much, but it's okay.
No, no, no.
Uh, I'll give you a typical example. When we acquire those trucks, we work together closely with the community, some people in the communities, and because of their own guidance, they were able to tell us that, don't go for this truck. This is a better alternative, right? So they were able to provide with us advice. So I think that, leveraging on the power of community, the power of network, would be able to grow and scale this business. I think that now that we are much more closer to them, it's easier to convince them to come on board to the platform as opposed to just staying as a technology company. Yeah, so that's what I would say would be my advice: resilience, and you have to integrate yourself to the local community, know your customer. That's it.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for sharing your Nigerian wisdom, IBK. If we're going to mash all the things that you just shared together, I think we could say like being resilient and understanding your community to build trust over time
Mhm.
will inevitably lead to success.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay, I think that's a good place to leave off. Thank you so much for sharing more about your water delivery business, IBK, and overall, like the vision that you're going to in terms of water access for all. I think that's wonderful, and that's a worldview that I share and would love to see.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Sean. Thank you once again for taking time out to meet with me and for, hear me geek you out about our business.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this interview, follow along on Earth ABC's LinkedIn to stay connected and never miss what's going on in climate tech. If you'd like to reach out or you're interested in coming on as a guest, feel free to connect with me, Sean Pack, on LinkedIn. We're always looking for inspiring ventures and founders in the climate space to feature on the show. Hope you enjoyed. Until next time.